Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thanks for tuning in. You know, today we're going to talk about the relationship between success and failure, between disaster and redemption. Sometimes we want something to happen so badly in our personal life or business, and when it doesn't, we actually feel like it's the end of the world. Where in retrospect, if we pull back and look at a broad enough perspective, we would see that if that would have worked out for us, that may be one of the worst things that could have happened to us. In fact, in my personal experience, some of the greatest opportunities I've been able to take advantage of were a direct result of some of my greatest failures. And after I failed and I didn't get what I wanted, by being open and ready, I accepted and became successful. So we're going to talk today about silver linings, and we're going to talk to entrepreneur and hospitality and tourism specialist Herb Malone's on the show. Herb's done so much for our community. We also have my dear friend Norris is on the show as my co-host. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. We got an amazing show. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm joined by my good friend Norris. How are you?
Good. How are you, Dan?
I'm doing great. It's good to see you again. I did see you a week or so ago.
Yes, you did.
And I actually put my life in Ian's hands, but I didn't know I was doing so. But many of you don't know, Ian's a successful entrepreneur, and amongst other things, I know you do some trading on the foreign market, but also you've been flying for quite a long time.
Yeah,
is that right?
I've had my private license since '94, and I've been just enjoying flying and pursuing that, building up my hours in recent times.
Now, you have, obviously, he's got the cool British accent. So, you know, what Ian did to me was actually a terrible trick. So he tells me, he says, hey, why don't you come out? I got a plane. We're going to go up. I'm going to take you around to see the sights. So I said, sure. So it was actually myself, my wife, and Julie, and my 5-year-old. And then we get in the plane, and I'm looking, you know, I'm not nervous, I guess. I'm a little bit on edge, but, you know, I don't love to fly. And I'm out there, and, you know, this isn't a 747. And so we're up there, and he's doing his thing. He looks kind of like James Bond, you know. And then all of a sudden, he just lets go, and he's like, okay, it's yours. And I was like, what? And so I'm actually flying this plane, and not what I thought. But I figured that if I got into like a nosedive, you would probably be able to save us. So I wasn't too worried about it, but yeah, nicely played.
It was fun, actually. I was really glad because I like to see other people actually dealing with the concept of being in control of that plane and responsible. And I was really interested. I know we talked a little bit after the flight, but I would love to hear, now that it's a week later and you've had a chance to relax and think about it some, I'd like to really hear what you really thought of that.
Well, you see, I'm still sweating up here, obviously. But no, actually, I'll tell you my honest perspective. I was a little bit nervous. I wasn't really nervous, but, you know, having the whole family and everything. But it definitely wasn't what I expected. I figured I would just hold these controls and we just sit there and we fly. But honestly, it was so sensitive. I mean, you just, with a car, you know, well, I grew up in the LA area with, my dad had a 80s van, the typical Hispanic family. I mean, the thing would, and you could literally turn the wheel this much before the van would even turn. You know what I mean? It had that much play in the wheel. But this, I mean, you just touch it, the plane's doing this. It was so sensitive. And with a car, I think it's just you're used to this or this. There's much more to keep track of flying.
With aircraft, you do have 3 axes that you have to be aware of and maintain control of. And so you got to experience a little bit of that because as you turned, not only did you have to be proactive about deciding how much of a turn and stopping it from continuing to turn, but you also had to consider the fact that that now affected the lift.
But keeping up with, you know, not getting the nose down and all that, it's a little bit disoriented. And at one point you said, well, let me level it out a little bit because I think I accidentally pulled the wheel back or something, and it was not my best flight, but hey, I'll work on it.
It's fantastic, and it's so much fun. And, you know, next time you'll be so much more comfortable with that.
Now you've been in the area for quite some time, is that right?
Yep, since beginning of 2003.
Okay, and I know that you were here during Hurricane Ivan.
Yes.
And I fortunately wasn't here, but I hear that was what, 2004?
Yep, September.
And I heard this area was just devastated by Hurricane Ivan. And of course, you know, we've talked about this on the show before, but with the Gulf Coast area, one of the first episodes we had Tony Kennan, the mayor of Orange Beach, on. And he was telling me, you know, we had a couple of hurricanes, and then Ivan, and then another. And then when we said, okay, this is going to be our year to really bring in revenue to the area, the oil shows up for a couple of years, and it was one thing after another. But actually, now the beaches are so amazing. We got white sand beaches here. Tourism is breaking records all over the place. And a big contributor to all that success here in the Gulf Coast is our guest tonight, Herb Malone. So without further ado, give a big hand to Herb Malone, everybody. Thanks for coming on, my man.
Sir.
Now, Herb, first of all, you're a pretty big guy. I just noticed that when I stood up to him. But you've been in the area. You're from the area, is that right?
More or less, I was born and raised over in North Mobile County. Kind of half grew up in Gulf Shores. We would move here for the summer. My father would commute to work from here, and then we would go back home for school year.
Now, I know I mentioned, you know, with all the growth that we're seeing right now, I truly believe that you've been a very big contributing factor to everything that's happening. And we're going to talk about some of the records and some of the great things that are happening in this area. But let me ask a little bit about your background. Where did you kind of decide to get involved in your industry and become an entrepreneur and help others?
Well, after college, my wife and I got married in college, and after college, had a little short stint with some pro football and training camp and free agent, and didn't make the team, got sent home, you know.
Yeah.
So we had that conversation about, well, what do you do now? What do you want to do? And I said, well, I'm not sure. She said, well, I know where you want to live. You want to live in Gulf Shores. I said, you're right. But at that time, Gulf Shores and Norris Beach was such a small town. There was very little business or job opportunities here. So we spent 4 years in Mobile, and then an opportunity created itself, and I kind of helped create it, and moved down here and opened a title insurance business for 10 years. At some point, decided that, maybe there's more fun things, more exciting things to do in life, and it's a great industry, great business. It just wasn't quite for me, so had an opportunity to take over the helm of the Chamber of Commerce.
Right. And at the Chamber, that was the Alabama Gulf Coast. You were the president at one time, is that right?
Right. President CEO.
President CEO, and that was from the mid to late 80s to what?
88 to 93. I was here 10 years in the title business, and then in 88, that opportunity presented itself, sold my interest out to my partner, and jumped on board with the Chamber. In 93, we created what we then called the Convention and Visitors Bureau, so we could have an organization that focuses strictly on tourism marketing, destination marketing. And those days we had a staff of myself and 4 ladies, and we've grown it now. We have a staff of over 30, and we operate 2 welcome centers year-round. We 7 days a week year-round, and we're very proud of the success we've had, and it's attributed to all the teamwork we've had, not just within our organization, but within the entire community.
Yeah, and you know, years ago, I used to, I've been vacationing in the Perdido Key area for a long time. We have family friends here. And also Destin, we'd go a lot to Destin, which is not too far. And I left for 15 years, and when I came back, I went to Destin thinking probably this is where I'm gonna move, to Destin. I didn't even recognize it. It was so different. I couldn't even figure out where I was. It was so built up. And here, there's almost a vibe of like, when I was talking to people, right when I came to the area, they're like, well, we're a really, like the best kept hidden secret. And we don't really necessarily want the next Destin scenario. I'm sure some do, but I know that tourism here is really growing by leaps and bounds.
It has been. We've been on a good ride for over 20 years of steady growth. We've had our setbacks. We've had a few tropical occurrences. We don't use the H word in this.
Oh, I gotcha.
No,
sorry about that. It won't happen again.
So tropical occurrences sound more sexy, don't you think?
We had a couple of tropical speed bumps, but
we've had our share of those, and unfortunately, we had our share of them. But fortunately, each one of them has given us great training on how to respond to disasters, how to react, how to recover, and how to come out bigger and better than we were before. we applied a lot of those same philosophies during the oil spill of 2010.
Yeah. Well, you know, and we're going to take a quick commercial break, but when I come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about turning I want to focus obviously on the positive, but you know, how you can actually take a lot of the elements of failure and the lessons that it teach you and use that to be able to turn it into a win. More with Herb Malone in a minute. Don't go anywhere. Thank you. Welcome back. We've been here with entrepreneur Herb Malone. Now, Herb, you've actually been in leadership for, 34 years, I guess, and we're calling it destination management. Is that right?
That's right.
And how have you seen the area change? We mentioned that you had a couple of tropical occurrences, but overall, when it comes to the community, have you seen a big change in the mind, or like a mental shift in the community since you've been here?
Well, I think the foundation of what this community is always still there. We have grown dramatically. We've grown in development. We've grown in population. We've grown in business production. But the fundamental basics of family-owned, family destination, and one of the things about that is that you look around at the businesses here in Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, and you'll find that the vast majority of them are locally owned. Many of them are, the entire family is working in the business. Many of them are in their second, third, and some even fourth generation of that family owning that business. Mm-hmm. And when you have that kind of family culture, that breeds itself to being attractive to families who like to vacation.
Right. And, you know, I have to back up what you're saying because there has been a lot of growth, but at the same time, it feels like the not just ethics, but the standard of living here, the people have kind of kept the same standards. I know that when I first got here, I went to the grocery store and, you know, people will talk and, hey, Mary, and everybody. And at first, being raised in the LA area, I was like, hey, no talking, get my groceries. I was in that geared up mode. And then I started watching them and I said, you know what? I don't think it's them. I think maybe it's me. You know what I mean? I have to stop, slow down, and really take the time. And it's even though there is tremendous growth, people really care. And they really roll out the red carpet when you come.
Well, it maintains that small town, neighbor caring about neighbor, neighbor helping neighbor, neighborhood type assistance and development as you go along. I grew up in small town. I've lived in small towns my entire life. Good thing about it is you know everyone and you care about everyone. The bad thing about it is everyone knows you.
Yeah, right.
And sometimes they want to care about you too much.
Yeah,
you know?
sure.
So we have the dynamic of both worlds here, in that the core group of residents who live here year round we all have that small town atmosphere flavor. But then every day you have the opportunity to meet new people that are either moving in, moving out, or they're visiting and vacationing or coming here to work. And that's what I like about a city. The short times I've lived in cities is that there's a lot of dynamics there, and you can always experience new people and new ventures, and we kind of have the best of both worlds.
I couldn't agree more. In fact, my wife recently had a flat tire, so she calls me. She says, "I'm broke down on the side of the road. Come get me." Before I could even turn the car around, she called me. She's like, "Never mind. There's 5 guys that are here helping me change it," and that never happens to me. No one stops.
Might be how you and I look.
Yeah, but I actually said, "Yeah, I'll be there even faster now. You hang on." But they had it all changed and told me to move aside. But now, for those of us that aren't in tourism, and I actually was doing a little research online, and I actually learned quite a bit about how vital the industry of hospitality and tourism is and how large it is. But for those of us that aren't in the tourism industry, talk a little bit about how important it is to a community like this, hospitality and tourism.
Well, when you have a community like Orange Beach and Gulf Shores where the beaches are our main attraction, tourism is just about our entire industry. Now we have things that also benefit from that, the real estate and real estate development, real estate sales, construction and development. Those are almost byproducts of tourism, that people find that if there's a community they like to visit and vacation, they think down the road about, when I retire, this would be a great place to live.
Right.
And so you have a lot of that fuels that. You're hard pressed to find a business that doesn't either make their living off of tourists, or they make the living off of business who makes the living off of tourists.
Right. And, we know that we're really close to Pensacola, which has a lot of military. And I've actually met several that said, I was stationed here years ago, and I always said, hey, man, when I'm retired, that's where I'm going. And 20 years later, they actually followed through with it, and they pack up everything, and they're right back here. And to their delight, they find out the area hasn't changed that much. The people are still treat you the same way.
And I think most people realize that a popular destination like Gulf Shores and Norris Beach is a place that's going to grow, and it's going to change somewhat. So they embrace that. They don't try to fight it. They embrace it, but at the same time maintain the essence of character of the community at the same time.
I was talking to a guy the other day. In fact, we have a mutual friend, Rick Miller, and I know you guys do a little bit of work together. And they had sent me over a video of a guy named, I think his name is Dave Carroll. I don't know if you've heard of it. And it's about this guy that literally one person, he took on United Airlines because they had really bad customer service. And they broke his guitar. Right. And then he said, if you don't do something about my guitar, I'm going to write a song about it. And he actually lowered their stocks 10%, and they lost hundreds of millions of dollars because they wouldn't fix like a $600 guitar. And I reached out to him about being on the show, and he was telling me when he found out where the show is, he says, I know exactly where you are. I was there 20 days ago. Right. This was just a few days ago. And I said, you know where? He's like, oh, yeah. I even mentioned that we shoot out of the creek. Oh, yep, know exactly where you are. He says, that area is really being known as setting a standard when it comes to even customer service. How important would, if you think about tourism and hospitality, I would think that customer service is a major role in that.
Absolutely, customer service is. Tourism is not just about fun and games. It's about people building lifelong memories. When you sit down and ask people about, show me your favorite photographs in your album or whatever, often not they're going to be pictures from their trip, either when they were children and their parents took them, or maybe their grandparents and they're taking their children. All those life moments that you experience and build lifelong memories here. Yeah. So it takes caring people to deliver the kind of service that people expect in that kind of time frame. I've often heard some speakers talk to young people who are starting to come into the hospitality business and training. The opening word he'll say is, if you don't care about people, if you don't enjoy helping people have a good time or helping people have a good experience, go find another job. That's not for you. Yeah. So when you have such a people-oriented business, the customer service level you do is what really brings them back. Your beautiful beaches or your scenic mountains or your big attraction may bring them one time, but if everybody they encounter doesn't care about them and show that they care about them and show they're glad they're here, they're likely to not come back.
Yeah, and we talked a little bit about this backstage. You basically got one shot. And I've even had experiences now that I didn't really even think about it until today, but there's been places where I normally don't frequent, but I said, I'm going to take a trip here or there. And because it might have been an amazing trip, but the first thing is I go to the hotel, they were rude, my room was messed up, it was a bad experience. And although the rest of the trip was great, when I really asked myself and thought about it, I didn't go back. It was that one experience, I didn't go back to the area. So.
And no place, no business, no one is perfect. Yeah. So bad things are going to happen, bad experiences are happening. So then what happens is the way you as management or supervisor, or even if you're the person that's waiting the table, is how you deal with that bad experience and turn it into a positive that makes a big difference. Yeah. Then you walk away from there, not with a bad memory, but you walk away from there with a, wow, I can't believe they did that for me.
Yeah, right. Well, I was just in a restaurant recently and somebody came over and he says, I'll tell you what, we got Ringo Starr here and his band, and I just wanted to give you complimentary tickets. And I actually was in a situation where I couldn't use them because we had our son, we had been out all day. But just the thought of somebody doing that, and we went over to a neighboring table and it says, are you guys tourists here? We gave them away. But I thought, just that one experience, I said, man, I can't believe they did that, and we'll be back over and over to that restaurant. Right. So you just got to care a little bit. Now, in 2000, you were actually inducted, it was a big honor, you were actually inducted into the Alabama Hospitality Hall of Fame. So we're not talking that you know a little bit about hospitality. You've really mastered it and know how to help people really learn what it takes.
Well, I've only believed that if you're going to do anything, you got to do it right. You got to do it to the very best of your capabilities. So as I entered this industry, coming out of the title insurance business, and all of a sudden I'm in charge of promoting tourism, I had a lot to learn. I was fortunate to have some great mentors here locally that helped me learn. And so, you know, you dive into that with both feet. And, you know, again, I wouldn't take total credit for that. It's a great team I had the pleasure of working with every single day that helps make those kind of awards possible. When I accepted that award, I accepted on behalf of our entire staff, on behalf of our board of directors, and really our entire community, because that's one of the keys we have to success here is working together.
Yeah.
You know, competitors, our board of directors is 12 people, all business people from this island. When they walk in that boardroom for a meeting, they check their competition at the door.
And it's
And
one unit.
they recognize that we got to work together to get people here. Once we get them here, we'll kind of compete with each other on where they stay and where they eat. But first step is we got to get them here.
Talk real briefly about, tell us about FiveStar Hospitality Program.
That was a program that came about through a joint board retreat with the Chamber of Commerce and our board and some other community leaders, and looking at what things we needed. And, you know, typically we would have a seminar once a year, and out-of-town speaker would come in and talk about hospitality services and what have you. And the businesses were telling us we need something ongoing, something we can send our people to and keep them refreshed throughout the year, because it's not something you want to take for granted. You got to keep top of mind awareness for it. So Faulkner State Community College stepped up and said, we'll help create this program, and we'll help sponsor the delivery of it. Quite a few business leaders helped in the formation and the conception of it. You mentioned Rick Miller. Rick teaches some classes in it. It's a great program. It's really made a difference.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you. And how's the future looking for the Gulf Shores, Orange Beach area?
Oh, it's looking great. You know, we came through the spill in 2010. 2011, we had hoped to at least get back to pre-spill levels of 09. We surpassed 09 numbers by about 18%. And then we thought at the end of 10, we said, well, was that just a bubble? Was that just a rebound of people who didn't get to come last year, came this year? So how can we maintain that and get back to that level again? 2012, not only did we get that level, we're 15% above where we were in 2011. So we got a lot of momentum going on right now, and we expect to carry that momentum into the future.
And I hear that there's something really exciting that I'm interested in, is this aspect of building reefs, increasing the artificial reef program.
The opportunity presented itself through a local entrepreneur to bring a ship here that he had bought down in South Florida, a condemned ship, that he had a choice. He could either make scrap metal out of it and sell the scrap metal, or he could sanitize it and sink it as an intact ship and set up a dive reef that will be a great complement to the Oriskany that's out from Pensacola. The Oriskany is in rather deep water, so it's really experienced divers, and I don't know the technical depths that they go to, but you really need to be an experienced diver to dive the Oriskany. This one's going to be much closer to land, so it's much more accessible for even even the trainees. And we see that as an opportunity. Our community sees it as an opportunity to add on to another facet of our water-based recreation.
And year-round too.
And really grow year-round and grow the scuba diving industry.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah.
Well, Ian's got a big smile because he is an experienced diver. He flies, he dives, he's British.
I used to fly.
Come on, man. He's got everything. What do I got? I got a talk show. You got all this stuff. Well, listen, it was great having you on, Herb. Time flies by so fast up here, but come back, would you? We'd love to kind of know what's going on, and any way we can actually get involved, being new to the community, how we can get involved as well. If people want to get involved in the community, what do we do? Where do we go?
Okay, well, I would say start with the Chamber of Commerce.
Chamber of Commerce.
We're a sister organization.
And you're still active on the board, is that right?
I am. I'm on the board, and we have two chambers, Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, the Alabama Gulf Coast Chamber, and then South Baldwin Chamber in Foley, and the two chambers work together very well. They depend a lot on volunteers, a lot of involvement. In fact, if I'm talking to someone that's just moved to town and they open a new business and they'll drop by to see me, what should I do? It's the very first thing they need is join the Chamber of Commerce.
Right.
And then get involved. Don't just join it and write a check, but get involved and get to know people. And that's where I started.
That's the big thing. It's easy to pay a few $100 to get be a member, but you got to get involved. You got to support your local community.
Right.
Well, we appreciate everything you've done. Herb Miller, everybody. Herb Malone, sorry. Herb Malone.
That's all right.
Rick Miller, Herb Malone. And a special thanks to Ian Norris. That's our show. Don't forget to get involved in your local community and be forgiving of others. Good night, everybody. Hi, I'm Dan Vega, and thank you for watching our channel. I want to take a second to tell you about a resource that's helping thousands of people across the country, Blue University. Blue University is the premier online business school for entrepreneurs and business leaders. You know, if you find yourself in a day-to-day grind where you've lost your joy or you're just tired of struggling, then check out blue.university. That's BLU.university. I can promise that you receive nothing short of a multi-million-dollar education. And if you want a completely different life in 3 to 6 months and a way to create wealth in 5 years or less, then again, check it out. That's BLU.university. Find out why blue is the new color of success. Also, make sure to subscribe to this channel or to give us a good rating, but that's only if you see value. And when you do receive value, make sure to share it with someone else. Thank you very much, and we'll see you next time.